Mephisto, Mephisto. Whenever someone complains about their gear or asks where to start their magic finding journey, the common answer always seems to be Mephisto. And for good reason. He's reasonably close to a waypoint, he can be cheesed so even weak characters can reliably run him, and he frequently drops both set and unique items, making him a very attractive early magic find target. I recently did a complete restart in Diablo 2 and decided to put Mephisto to the test. I wanted to see just how geared you could get by running only Mephisto. So starting with some very bare bones magic find gear, I ran Mephisto 1000 times, and he really dropped some good gear. Before we get into the drops, let me just give a quick rundown of our starting character. Skill wise, it's your standard cookie cutter Blizzard Sorceress, nothing new, nothing fancy, it's just the best Mephisto runner in my opinion. Gear wise, she's using a spirit sword for some skills, faster cast rate and some other good stats. In the other hand, she's using an Ancient's Pledge rune word to help with her terrible resistances. Headgear is a magical circlet with +1 to skills and some added energy. The body armor is a gothic plate with 4 perfect topazes in it for a massive boost to magic find. The belt is just a random belt with 4 potion slots and a small boost to life. Magical gloves of fortune and magical boots of luck for even more magic find. In case you didn't know, both of these items can be shopped from vendors in town pretty easily, though you might have to spend some time in order to find high rolls like these. For jewelry, she's wearing 1 amulet and 1 ring with magic find and 1 ring with faster cast rate. While questing through the game, she was fortunate enough to find a Blade of Alibaba, which is wearing on her weapon switch, together with a rhyme rune word. In summary, her gear is all magic find and very little else. Her magic find sits at just over 200 on the main gear and just over 300 on her weapon switch, which is of course very solid for just getting started. Now let's get into the juicy part, the loot. Only 4 runs in, I found my first useful item. A gold wrap belt. Maybe not the rarest or most powerful, but it was a nice motivation finding an upgrade for the character so early. Then, just 12 runs in, I had an unbelievable drop. An Ohm rune. I couldn't believe it, I've never seen Mephisto drop a rune this high, so needless to say, I was super excited. On round 16, the first unique ring dropped. A Ravenfrost. Nice to have one, but kind of a mediocre roll. On run 24 I found a String of Ears. Very good rolls on the stats, but unfortunately it's also ethereal. On the very next run, Mephisto dropped Ormus Robes, their unique Dusk Shroud. And this more than made up for the troll roll of the String of Ears from the last round. Look at that, 3 to lightning and 15 lightning damage. That's the kind of item you just wanna put to use right away, but Lightning Sorceress have to wait. We still have plenty of Mephisto runs to go through. Like run 59, where I found my first Guide's Fortune. The roll is pretty bad, but it's still a Guide, so I'm not complaining. Wait, hang on, what's that? An on-screen run counter? So after 50 or so runs, I realized that my current method of run tracking was not gonna cut it for 1000 runs. So I installed a run counter app, and it made my life so much easier from this point forward. After a bit of a dry spell in drops, I found Talrasha's Lidless Eye on run 122. On run 124 I found another unique ring. This time it was an eagle ring, and quite a bad one. On run 139 I found a Rune Master with quite an interesting roll. The high ED together with 5 sockets and the item being ethereal makes it quite rare, but it's probably quite a while away before I have a Sod rune to spare to experiment with this, especially since I'm playing single player. On run 172 I found a nice upgrade for the Sorceress. Arachnid Mesh. This would be quite the power boost for the Sorceress, but as you can see I'm not even high enough level to use it yet. On run 175 I found a pair of unique javelins. I really enjoyed the Javason and the Amazon class in general, but this roll left a lot to be desired. On run 186 it was time for another unique ring. This time it was a Manald Heal. On run 212 I found another Arachnid Mesh. As the saying goes, when it rains it pours. On run 238 I found my first Rainbow Facet unique jewel. After a little lucky ritual, I revealed a nicely rolled Poison Facet. After 250 rounds, I took a short break from Mephisto to try and level up to 80 to be able to use the arachnid mesh I found before. Little did I know that the ancient tunnels had a nice surprise in store for me. In the corner of my screen I saw a legendary mallet drop. And it was a Schaefer's. A very nice surprise indeed. Back to Mephisto with my newfound power, I found another pair of Titan's Revenge on run 267. And this time the roll was a real nice one. On run 280 I found another rainbow facet. It was another poison facet with a slightly worse but not terrible roll. Run 315 brought me my first pair of chance cards. Not a very good roll, but at least it was an upgrade. Another unique ring dropped on run 343. It was just another Manald heal, but at least the game was kind enough to give me a pair of Mage Fists as a consolation prize. On run 369 I found a unique amulet that turned out to be High Lord's Wrath. Lots of jewelry lately, and run 382 brought another unique ring. This time a Dwarf Star. On run 391 some ethereal javelins dropped. Unfortunately these were Thunderstrokes and not Titan's Revenge, so no replenishing stack. Otherwise a pretty mediocre roll, you really want the +4 skills. On run 406 I found an item that I'm quite fond of because I have played a lot of Summoner Necromancers in my days. Arm of King Leoric. Time for another rainbow facet on run 411. This time it was a fire facet, and while the roll is mediocre, at least it was in favor of -2 enemy resistance. From the very beginning of the runs I had secretly been hoping for a specific item to drop, and on run 458 I found it. My first Shako. I was so excited that I headed immediately to town to go to Act 5 to socket it, only to realize I hadn't even reached Act 5 yet. And it was then I noticed. My first and only Shako was ethereal. Not gonna lie, that was a bit rough, but at least the chance of the durability going down during meth runs is quite low, so I put it on but held off on socketing it for now. On the very next run, the game tried to make up for it by dropping a nice piece of armor in Skin of the Viper Magi. A pretty decent roll, but I decided to keep using my Magic Find armor for now. Speaking of armors, on run 465 another Ormus Robes dropped. The first one set the bar really high, and this one did not come close. As we were closing in on the halfway point of the project, the game decided to drop a nice upgrade for us in celebration. While I am in the camp that thinks the random teleport on the Oculus is very annoying, it's still a nice upgrade for us at this point. After 500 runs I decided to take a short break and evaluate our progress so far. While some of our gear is still pretty bad and there's definitely room for improvement, I would definitely say that we could qualify as being decently geared at this point. But we're nowhere near done yet, let's move on. On run 527 I found another Guide's Fortune. Not the greatest roll, but it was an upgraded Magic Find. Run 545 brought another unique ring, which turned out to be another bad Nagel. Another unique ring 10 runs later on run 555. Another poor roll, but a Ravenfrost this time. On run 602 I found Talrasha's belt. I unfortunately lost all footage from that run, but I did find this footage from the next run, confirming that it was a bad roll. Then from Mephisto on run 603 I found a unique amulet. This time a Nokko-san relic. Going for 3 in a row, on run 604 I found a unique Balrog spear. It turned out to be ethereal, which has a lot of potential for this item since it has replenishes quantity, but unfortunately the other rolls were pretty bad. After a chaotic fight on run 617 I found a pair of unique boots. While Hotspurs only have niche use cases, they're still pretty rare, so I was happy to find them. On run 619, I think Mephisto tried to tell me something. I dropped not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 different bows. On run 639, I got to spin the wheel twice when Mephisto dropped a unique ring and a unique amulet on the same run. The amulet turned out to be the rising sun, while the ring turned out to be yet another 18% Nagel. On run 667, I drew a sigh of relief when I found a non-ethereal Shako. I actually hadn't lost a single durability on my ethereal one, but it was still a really nice find. Run 672 brought a very useful item in the unique war belt, Thunder God's Vigor. On run 680 I found another rainbow facet. It turned out to be the highly desired element of lightning, but unfortunately the worst roll possible. On run 639 I found my first pair of War Travelers. Turned out to be a below average roll, but at least it was an upgrade for me. On run 720 I found another Thunderstroke, and this time we got the 4 skills. The ED roll left some to be desired, but that's not the main priority. On run 732 I found a nice item for the Paladin. The Herald of Saccharum. I don't have a Paladin at the moment, but this will be a nice piece of gear when I decide to make one. I found another Ormus Robes on run 744, but this one wasn't anything to celebrate. An amulet on run 745, a Nokusan relic. Then I hit my worst unlucky streak, going for over 100 runs without finding anything worth noting, but on run 857 the streak was broken with a unique ring. It was just a dwarf star, but at least we got to experience the thrill of identifying something again. I found another unique ring on run 900. It was yet another Nagel ring, but this time I was quite happy since it rolled perfect on the magic finds. I found Skulder's Ire on the run 910. This was a nice upgrade for sure, but it was a bittersweet celebration, since this meant that it was time to unequip my thrusty gemmed Gothic plate and put it in the stash. On run 938 I found a Shako. The third Shako definitely doesn't hit the same as the first or second, but it always feels good to find a Shako. On run 941 I found 2 nice Amazon items from the same drop. Another Thunderstroke, although this time the roll was quite bad, and a Razor Tail. On run 951 I had a really nice drop in Dracul's Grasp. There's a lot of variable rolls on this item, and I would say I got a slightly below average one, but I was still happy to find a pair. On run 962 I found a unique amulet. Unfortunately no Maras, but at least it was a High Lord's. We're closing in on 1000 runs here, but luckily Mephisto decided to be a nice guy and finish strong, starting with an amulet on run 991, a Nokusan relic. Another Oculus on run 994, and finishing it all off with a Talrash's belt on run 995, and he was kind enough to drop a perfect magic find one for the finale. So, after 1000 runs we have a geared sorceress and a whole pile of other nice items. These runs took a lot of time and effort, but the question is, was it worth it? And the answer is yes. If you're a loot goblin like me, you might wanna check this video out next, where I do another 1000 magic find runs, this time on the equally loved and hated miniboss Pindleskin.
Bye.